This is a video about function machines. So if you're in Algebra 1 and want some more help on what function machines do and how we solve them, here's a great video for you to watch. So this says we have our function machine right here in this design. Okay, this means the machine. And our input value, or it says x equals -3, that's the input value. Okay, so we're going to replace each x that we see in the function machine with -3. So we're going to replace, even on the left side, we're going to say f of -3. We're replacing x with a -3. We're inputting -3 wherever we see an x. So equals -2. Right next to each other means times -3 plus 4. And what we're going to find is what happens when we plug in or we input -3 into our machine. What does the machine get out? What's the output going to be? Alright, so now I just leave the left side the same. Keep that f, and we say of -3, f of the number in the parentheses, equals -2 times -3 equals 6, plus 4. Alright, so this is all inside of our function machine right now. So inside our function machine is going to spit out a 10. So right here, this number that it spits out is a 10, and this is my output. Or my final answer after I plugged in -3, the output is 10. So we're going to see it written like this. F of -3 equals 10. That means I plugged in the -3. This is my input. And this number was the output, which came out of the machine after we did all the stuff inside the machine. Alright, so let's look at another example now. So we have our input is going to be 2. So we're going to replace each x that we see in our machine with a +2. And we're going to find out what happens when we do that. What number do I get out after doing all these different calculations to the number 2? So f of 2 is my input, and I'm going to replace the x's. So instead of having an x plus 3, I'm going to say 2 plus 3. And instead of saying 2 times x, I'm saying 2 times 2. Minus 5. Okay. So let me show you this 2 and this 2 are the same x values that we just got from up there. Okay, so that's what those are doing. So now we're going to calculate this. So leave the left side the same. F of 2 is how we say that. Equals, let's do the top first. 2 plus 3 is 5. And on the denominator, I have 4 times 2, which is 4. And then 4 minus 5 gives me a -1 on the denominator. Alright, so I still am going to keep continuing. This left side stays exactly the same the whole time. And then I have 5 divided by -1 leaves me -5. So this is my output. So right here, this is going to be 5. My output. I input a +2, and I got out a 5 after I did all those different things to the number. Alright, so here would be our final answer. F of 2, which means I plugged in a 2, I get out a -5. Alright, so we're going to look at one more. Now this is when we have the output and not the input. We need to find the input. We don't know what it is, but I know the output is a 2. So let's look at our function machine, which is this inside part right here. And I want to do something. I want to plug in a number for x. I'm replacing each of the x's, right? So f of, I'm going to write it as a question mark, equals 3 minus the square root of something. And that's supposed to give me a 2. So this side has to equal 2. This right side must be the same as 2. So 3 minus what gives me 2, first of all? 3 minus 1 would give me 2. Right? 3 minus 1 would give me 2. So that means this part right here, this positive 1, is this thing right here. The square root of something that gives me a 1. So what's something times itself that would give me 1? What times what equals 1? Well, there's really only one combination of things that would be 1 times 1. So that means the square root of 1 is 1. Alright, so our question mark value, if I solve it now that I have the 1 filled in, 3 minus the square root of 1 is really 3 minus 1, which does indeed give me 2. So my input this time, which we didn't know, my input equals 1, or we say x equals 1. Okay? So if you're just given the output, you have to work backwards and think what number is going to give me my output, my desired output. Okay? If you're still not sure on function machines, make sure you ask your teacher before we go further into the school year.